Hi again, everyone. I am the Cantankerous Collector. This is episode number 98. Check out my eBay store, Death by Buffalo, Death by Buffalo. I sell a lot of pop culture stuff and comic book related stuff, so check it out when you get a chance. So, Dracula has always been my favorite monster. And I call him a monster because that's what I thought of him as a kid, although he's a little more complex than that. Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula is one of my favorite movies. I saw it at least 3 times at the theaters. I loved all the different practical effects, the costumes, everything. Now, I saw the movie several times at the theaters, not just because I liked it, but because I was trying to figure out what Gary Oldman was saying throughout the film. I have a real difficult time when I'm watching a movie and trying to decipher what the actors and actresses say. A lot of times it's mumbled, it's just not clear. And Gary Oldman's character, whether he was old Dracula or the Bat or even young Dracula, it was really hard for me to understand. And I'm the type of guy you don't want to go see a film with because I'm the guy that'll lean over to you and say, "What did he say? What the hell? What the hell did he say?" I watch movies at home with subtitles on because I can't decipher what people are saying half the time. So, especially when they're trying to do an accent or something, or like Gary Oldman did, which he did a wonderful job, but his voice changed throughout the film and depending upon what version of Dracula he was. So, I have a really cool collection of Bram Stoker Dracula items. Couple things really, really, really cool. And I'll get those out one of these days. But this is an item that Factory X created and released back in 2001. And I ordered it back then. I've been real anxious to look at this and review it because it's been so long since I've seen it. And I also did a little research into this, which I find is pretty interesting, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But this box or this sleeve on the box has come detached at one end. There's something loose inside. I don't know what that is, but the back of the box says used to cut a path of destruction through medieval Europe comes the Sword of Dracula. This beautiful sword measures 34 inches in overall length and sports a 27-inch blade of high carbon steel and a brass pommel. Each sword comes complete with a unique coffin-shaped wall plaque and attached candle shelf, so this dramatic sword can be displayed in the proper fashion. It says also available in this long-awaited collection is Dracula's walking cane as both a regular cane and a sword cane, and Quincy's rhino-headed Bowie knife. Now, I don't have the cane because I'll be honest, the parts when Dracula was in town, in London and was younger, those parts weren't as interesting to me as the rest of the movie. So I wasn't really interested in that. I did pick up Quincy's, the Texan, his Bowie knife, which has a rhinoceros head. And that's somewhere in storage. I don't know, but I will get that out one of these days. So let's check this out. That's the back, so I'm going to flip it. Do, do, do. Okay. I want to see what was loose. So this is the sword's, it's a cap to protect the tip of the sword. So that's what was flying around the whole time. Oh, it's got some nice weight to it. It's a fine looking sword. Vampire, my friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. At the Borgol Pass, my carriage will await you and bring you to me. I trust your journey from London has been a happy one, and that you'll enjoy your stay in my beautiful land. Your friend, D. So, let's set this down for a minute. And this is the base, which, as I read earlier, is coffin-shaped. I don't know if I would display this with the base. I certainly wouldn't light the candle because the last thing I want is my place going up in flames. Copyright 2001. Columbia Pictures. Now, I noticed there's no candle. Is that something that was supposed to come with this, or I didn't see a candle anywhere. I like a candle in the wind, never go. Okay, so let me, this is the candle holder. I like a candle in the wind. So it's got a sticker on here. Kind of cheesy, but it's got the logo, BRAM STOKER'S Dracula. And there's some screws here which will hold the sword into place, and then a hole there for a screw to go into the wall. Actually, this isn't bad. This is kind of neat. It's not too ornate. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple, which is kind of nice. Ow! Dun-dun-dun-dun, 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Okay, so I'm not certainly not an expert on swords, and this looks really cool, but I want to talk about a couple things here. I did a little research, and as it turns out, and this was kind of defeating, learning this. I obviously didn't do any research when I first bought it 23 years ago. And it's been in storage, so I haven't looked at it or anything. I've watched the movie a few times since then, but so Dracula's sword is shown a few different times in the movie. The first time we see it is in that great opener. You know, the year 1462, Constantinople had fallen. Muslim Turks swept into Europe with a vast superior force, striking at Romania, threatening all of Christendom. From Transylvania arose a Romanian knight of the Sacred Order of the Dragon, known as Dracula. We then see a shot of Dracula in battle using a completely different sword. The hilt of the sword looks nothing like the sword we saw imposed onto the map. After the complete ass whooping the Turks receive, we see Dracula triumphant. He returns home and to a church where he discovers his love, Elisabetta, dead. Now the sword he has here is the one from the shot with the map. He renounces God and thrusts the sword into the Holy Cross, which then begins to bleed. So the only other time we see the sword, if I recall correctly, is a few minutes later in that great scene. In fact, it's my favorite scene in the movie, and it's my favorite scene in any Dracula movie, where we see Jonathan Harker, who in this case played by Keanu Reeves, visits Castle Dracula and meets the Count for the first time. So Keanu sits at the dinner table and has dinner and ends up offending Dracula with his poor acting. So Dracula's talking about his forefathers, and Jonathan Harker starts giggling like a schoolgirl, and we get, "It is no laughing matter. We Draculs have a right to be proud. What devil or witch was ever so great as Attila, whose blood flows in these veins?" So this sword is a replica of that particular sword, and it's based on a common sword found in medieval Europe back in the 13th and 14th centuries. In fact, there's a real true medieval sword that resides in New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it's what the Dracula sword is based on. And so when I found that out, it was disappointing to me, because you would think that Dracula would have had his own sword forged for him. The pommel has a Latin inscription on it that loosely translates to, "Here too, the praiseworthy has its rewards." Now, what that has to do with Dracula, it doesn't. In fact, you can buy this sword, not packaged like I have here, from Factory X, but you can buy this sword online. I mean, there's a company in Italy that sells, I think, this exact sword based on the sword in the museum in New York. I find that real disappointing. It really killed my spirit, because I was really excited about doing this review. I thought, this is really cool. The pommel, you'd think, would have something on here that would say that this was Dracula's sword, whether it be a family shield, some type of imprint, some type of mark, that designated this as Dracula's sword. Maybe even just the letter D or something. Or, he talks about his family heritage and forefathers and the Sacred Order of the Dragon. They must have had a sign or a type of seal of some type that you could expect would be, engraved or whatever onto this pommel. But the fact that it's just a sword that's based, or I should say a prop sword that's based on a medieval sword from the 1300s, I don't know, it kind of puzzles me. It could have been just an issue of budget, you know, and they didn't have the budget to do all this stuff. I mean, the movie is real prop heavy. And there's a ton of great props and stuff in the movie. So maybe the art director or somebody went to Francis Ford Coppola and said, "Hey, Frank, I've got an idea for a custom Dracula sword." And Francis Ford Coppola said, "Oh, really? You know, what do you got?" And the guy says, "We could have the emblem for the Sacred Order of the Dragon engraved onto the pommel. And then we can add like Romanian or Transylvanian text, whatever they spoke back then. And the text could translate to something like, 'The dragon rises to defend the scriptures of God,' or 'Awaken the dragon, our enemies are upon us,' or something cool like that." And Francis may have said, "You know what? That sounds great. Let me go check on the budget." And he leaves and comes back and he's like, "Hey guys, listen up. It's either the custom Dracula sword or the catering truck." And they're like, "Fuck that, we're starving." Vampire, vampire. I find it puzzling. I find it real puzzling that they didn't give Dracula his own sword. And the other thing that kind of really sucks is the crossguard here in the film, it curls at the tips. It curls up a little. And they didn't do that for this one. And so this is, not only is it just like a common sword, but it's not even a good prop replica. You know, it's pretty basic. It doesn't do much for me. So, you know, I mean, so the other thing that bugs me about this sword, and this I remembered from when I first opened it, was that there are gaps. There are big gaps between where the blade connects into the hilt, where it connects into the crossguard. And I don't know if this is just a production issue. They didn't get it right. I looked at some shots of swords online, and I found one or two that had a gap between a blade and a crossguard. But in general, most swords don't do that. I mean, Evel Knievel couldn't jump these gaps. I mean, that's how big they are. So that was kind of another issue. That was pretty much the only issue that I saw when I first opened this. You know, I guess I could have the sword sharpened and use it as protection. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. You talking to me? You talking to me? You must be talking to me, 'cause there's nobody else around. You talking to me? You talking to me? Pull up, bitch. You know, so as a prop sword, I think this fails. It's a disappointment. I mean, I'm not gonna cry about it, but you know, it fails on a couple different levels, and I'm just being honest, you know. But I'd love to hear from people what they think. If do they have this prop replica, and what they think about it. You know, what they know about swords, and maybe something I missed. But you know, leave a comment if you can. I'd appreciate it. You know, I mean, now that this video has completely collapsed under its weight and, you know, just blown up in flames, it wasn't what I was planning. But hey, you live and learn and do your research. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. All right, that's all I got. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.